Plucked from the trash, everyday objects are destroyed, then transformed by technology, reborn into modern marvels. Truck tires flatten into floor tiles. Coffee beans brew into coffee pods. And skateboards flip into wristwatches. These are the things that are made by destruction. Mining truck tires can carry up to 4 tons of weight on rocky, uneven terrain. So it's no wonder that after thousands of kilometers, even these hard-wearing tires need to be retired. Aside from making the world's biggest swing, these monster truck tires still have plenty of use to spare. Next Source Recycling in Chatham, Canada has found a new way to keep the rubber on the road. Heavy-duty truck tires are being changed into outdoor tiles. At the plant, workers take in hundreds of mammoth tires and cut, shred, and grind them back into crumb rubber. Tires are made of rubber reinforced with steel belts. Nylon plies add stability and ensure an airtight seal. Steel wires, called beads, keep the tire mounted to the rim. The first step in the destruction process is debeading. A forklift loads a 5,000-kilogram tire onto a debeater. Driven by powerful hydraulics, a hook reaches into the tire and rips the steel bead from the sidewalls. Once it's been gutted, a hydraulic shearer chomps the tire into chunks. In destruction step 2, the tire is shredded into smaller pieces. A loader drops the tire parts onto a conveyor. They drop into a pre-shredder, which scissors them into 12-centimeter rubber shred. The rubber rolls into a rotating drum sieve, which screens out the steel and nylon debris. The separated rubber drops onto a massive pile. A front loader scoops up a load of rubber shred and drops it into a hopper. The hopper feeds a grinder, which chops the shred into small crumbs. The crumb exits onto a vibrating conveyor called a classifier. The bits of fiber and metal shred stay on the perforated belt, while the heavier rubber crumb bounces through the grate and drops into super sacks, ready for shipping. New Rubber Technologies in Tilbury, Canada processes tons of recycled rubber crumb every year. The next step in the process is devulcanizing. At the factory, a front loader fills a hopper with rubber crumb. To make rubber less sticky and to help it keep its shape, rubber is vulcanized. Sulfur is added to the rubber, which creates crosslinks between individual polymer chains. To recycle the rubber, these links need to be broken. A worker adds a proprietary additive. When combined with shear force, it will devulcanize the ground-up tires. An industrial mixer blends the crumb with the additive, triggering it to break the links in the polymer chains that harden the rubber in the first place. The naturalized rubber comes out in fluffy clumps. A conveyor transports the material to the end of the line and drops it into a bin. A worker shovels the devulcanized rubber into 9-kilogram bags. Giant truck tires have been reduced to fluffy rubber balls, ready to roll into hard-wearing outdoor tiles. The devulcanized rubber is flattened into sheets and molded into durable flooring. Rubber recyclers tear apart massive truck tires, grind the rubber into crumb, then devulcanize it to restore its original state. The first step in making rubber floor tiles is to convert the devulcanized rubber back into a material that can be shaped and hardened. A worker loads the 9-kilogram bags of rubber crumb onto a conveyor belt. He adds a strip of natural rubber, oils, and the key ingredient in vulcanization, sulfur. The belt feeds the materials into a mixer, which works the blend to a doughy consistency. After 7 minutes, a hard roller kneads the rubber dough and heats it. This helps mix in the sulfur and solidifies the rubber into durable, thick sheets. As it comes off the press, a worker slices off lengths of the vulcanized rubber and winds it into a wrap. He hands it off to another operator, who loads it into a hopper that feeds a machine called a calendar. The rubber wrap squeezes between 2 hard rollers that cools and flattens it into thick sheets. As the sheets wind onto large spools, corrugated plastic is sandwiched between the layers to vent the newly rolled rubber and keep it from sticking. A forklift ferries the spool to the tile press. First, a worker drapes the rubber sheet on a table and peels away the plastic coating. Guided by a tile-sized plexiglass template, he cuts the sheet into pieces. Then the worker sprays lubricant into the tile presses. He loads each press with a rubber square, which will form the face of the tile. He layers smaller strips on the square to form the bottom of the tile. The lids drop on the mold that shuttle into a press that cures the rubber at 176 degrees Celsius. After 7 minutes, the molds pop open. An operator pulls out the freshly cured rubber tiles. They're flexible and durable, with snap-on edges that make them easy to install. Decommissioned truck tires are back on the ground, gutted, shredded, and rolled into a patio floor tile that's weatherproof, comfortable, and easy to clean. Proving there's more than one way to change a tire. Many of us just can't wait to caffeinate and kickstart every morning with a jolt of Java. But brewing a perfect cup of coffee can be tricky, even for die-hard coffee addicts. Now there's a way to pour a great cup of Joe every morning. Club Coffee in Rexdale, Canada doesn't just roast coffee beans. They turn them into their own single-serve compostable containers. Coffee beans are transformed into eco-friendly coffee pods. In their 12,000 square meter factory, coffee workers roast and separate the skin from the coffee bean to turn it into a reusable raw material. The first step in removing the skins is roasting the beans. A load of green coffee beans drop into the roaster that heats to just over 200 degrees Celsius. The skin or chaff of a coffee bean is a strong husk that protects the bean. When heat is applied, the skin becomes brittle and falls off, while the bean turns an aromatic, darkish brown. Fans pipe the chaff into 360-kilogram sacks. A forklift carries the bags for shipment to the next stop in their transformation from coffee skin to coffee pod. Competitive Green Technologies in Leamington, Canada mixes coffee bean chaff with other organic ingredients to make a plastic-like material that's biodegradable. Before they can blend coffee skins with other ingredients, an analyst scoops a sample onto a moisture meter to make sure it's dry. The chaff must contain less than 5% water to combine with other material. The worker hoists the bag of dry coffee bean skins over the mixer and unloads the contents. As the chaff moves along a conveyor belt, 3 proprietary plant-based ingredients drop onto the line. When they're mixed with the chaff, they'll form a resin that's as sturdy and as flexible as plastic, but will naturally decompose over time. The bioblend passes into an extruder. A heated screw melts the material and pushes it through a die plate. A rotating blade chops the molten resin into pellets that then pass through water to cool and harden. The bioresin pellets shoot into large cardboard boxes lined with aluminum foil. The pellets are now a darker brown from roasting in the hot extruder. 20-ton batches are headed to the next location and the next stop in their transformation. The pellets are melted, molded, and assembled into single-serve coffee pods. Coffee workers roast the beans to remove the chaff, then mix it with plant-based plastics and mold it into pellets. Loads of the pellets land at 4Mark Manufacturing in Oakville, Canada. The company uses bioresins to produce the ring that holds the coffee pod together. The bioplastic shaft ring secures the dome-shaped filter, the paper lid, and the coffee grinds inside. Every part of the pod will break down after use. Step 2 of the creation process is molding. A worker vacuums the pellets into a hopper, which fills an extruder. Inside, the pellets melt into a pliable plastic. The hot coffee chaff pellets move into an injection molding machine. The bioresin is injected at high pressure in a ring mold. Once the resin is cooled, the plates open and inject the rings. The factory produces over 1 million coffee pod rings every day, replacing plastic and aluminum with a product that will hold things together when it needs to and break down when it doesn't. The rings fly off the conveyor belt and drop into boxes. Pellets made from coffee chaff have been melted and formed into compostable rings. The compostable rings ship back to Club Coffee to be assembled into coffee pods. The components come together in a multi-station pod machine. First, a worker empties a bag of rings into a hopper. The rings pass through a sorter, which flips them into position and sends them into 6 moving lanes. A large roll of filter paper threads through the machine. A heated piston pushes the paper into a mold on a rotating drum, shaping it into the dome filter that will hold the coffee grinds. This station processes 180 domes a minute. The pods roll under 6 augers that measure out 11 grams of coffee into each filter. A roll of compostable paper lids, printed with specially manufactured biodegradable ink, feeds into a machine. It punches out the lid and caps the dome. Once the bioresin ring locks everything together, the coffee pods are ready for shipping. Forward-thinking coffee makers have brewed up a great idea: separating the skin of a coffee bean, then mixing and molding it into the world's first compostable coffee pod. So your next single-serve cup of joe isn't just a rich dark brown, it's green too. It might look easy, but pulling off these skateboard moves is no free ride. It takes practice, precision, and time. But all these gnarly tricks mean skateboard decks wear out every few months. Now, a Canadian company called Second Shot is giving old skateboards a second chance. They're turning previously loved skateboards into jewelry that will stand the test of time. Skateboards are transformed into wristwatches. At Second Shot, they strip, laminate, and saw discarded decks to create the new face of a cool timepiece. The first step in the destruction process is selecting. The craftsperson is checking for boards with interesting color patterns in the wood laminate. Skateboard decks are constructed with 7 layers of multicolored maple. To expose the laminate, the worker has to peel away the grip tape. First, he secures a broken deck to the workbench. He aims a heat gun at the surface to soften the glue holding the tape down. Once it's hot, the grip tape separates in one smooth tug. The craftsperson marks the deck with a pencil, then flattens a piece of guide tape along the edge. He cuts the end off the board with a bandsaw. Using the tape as a guide, the worker then cuts the board into narrow strips. A belt sander scrapes away lacquer and wax and removes any remaining board graphics. Now the strips of skateboard are bonded together. A worker spreads an even coat of glue on the wood strips and stacks them on top of one another. He clamps the stack in a vise, tightening it to compress the pieces together. The worker wipes off the excess glue. Heat speeds up the drying process. After several hours, the stack is cured into a single chunk of laminated maple. Back at the bandsaw, the worker cuts the chunks into small cubes. Then, he slices the cubes into thin sheets and dices the sheets into short sticks. Every stick displays a different shade of the maple laminate. Fractured skateboard decks have been stripped and sawed into colorful maple sticks. It's time to turn the pieces into the face of a stylish wristwatch. The sticks are laminated together, cut into patterns, and integrated into a one-of-a-kind timepiece. Old skateboard decks have been stripped, stacked, and sliced into multicolored laminated sticks. The first step in creating the watch face is to arrange the rectangular sticks in a unique geometric design. A worker glues 6 laminated sticks side by side into a square. Then, he glues the squares into a stack, building a wooden block. Running it over a belt sander exposes the layered sticks' colorful pattern. The worker uses a bandsaw to cut slices off the block. This thin sheet of laminate will become the watch face. In creation step 2, the internal movements are assembled. The watchmaker spreads glue on the wooden face and fixes it to a metal backing plate for added support. Once it's fused together, he uses a drill press to make holes for the hands and hour indicators. the craftsman uses tweezers to delicately drop the indicators into their spots on the dial. He adds the 24-hour clock and the date window. Then, the watchmaker installs the quartz movement. Inside the movement, battery-powered electricity passes through a quartz crystal, causing it to vibrate. The vibrations are converted into 1-second pulses, powering the motorized gears that spin the hands. The watchmaker gently presses the hour and second hands into place. Once he's determined that all the components are in precise position, the craftsman can enclose the dial in its case. First, he lowers a waterproof gasket over the face. Then, he press fits the mechanism into a protective crystal attached to an elegant metal band. The craftsman flips over the watch to insert the battery and snaps in the shock-absorbing cover to lock everything in place. He installs the crown, the miniature knob that adjusts the time and date. Finally, a monogram backplate completes the timepiece. A quick polish, and the watch is packed in a cool maple box, also made with repurposed skateboard decks. Skateboards that were kicked to the curb are back on the block. Stripped and chopped and reimagined as a handcrafted wristwatch that's always set to right now. Because when you combine craft and creativity with the right material, it's really just a matter of time.